And in corporate logos, you'll often see the symbol of the handshake. Just remember, when you see the symbol of the handshake used on TV or in a commercial, it has very important connections going back to Freemasonry, because the symbol of the handshake is of great significance there. And Masons refer to what they do as the craft. They are members of the craft.
Mm-hmm.
But then we have products and logos that we pick up every day that seem to bear the same name. We have politicians making what we call mudras, or sacred hand signals, because they belong to these secret societies. This is Bill Clinton making the sign where he raises the Apollo and the Mercury finger to signify to other brethren that of what's going on. I have Sam Giancana and people in the mafia. I have the mayor of New York and many personalities in the media using the same symbol. We just don't have time to show them all today.
I noticed that after he was elected.
Oh, yeah, sure. Hand symbols have been used. Churchill's V, Prince Charles, the royal family, all your prime ministers use them vehemently. Richard Nixon would use the V shape copiously. And this goes back. This is not something new. As we see George Washington here, that symbol that George Washington is making is the symbol of Baphomet, with the hands that are raised, one hand raised, one hand down, is actually the symbol of an occult god. So let it be known that America is very much steeped in symbolism. The raising of the V has to do with the 33rd degree Freemasonry. Your two fingers were divided into 3 sections, you see. And the 33rd degree has to do with Freemasonry. That's what that symbol originally comes from. And we find the 33 again on the symbol of NATO, or the United Nations. If you count that grid, not only do you have the old laurel leaves of the Roman Empire, because as I said, the Roman Empire is not something dead, it still exists in a mutated form in the New World Order. But if you count the sections of the grid in that encompasses the whole Earth, it has 33 compartments.
4 times 8 plus 1.
Right. So the 33 are involved in controlling the structure of the world. Here we have the communist flag, the Soviet flag, and again, very familiar symbol, but not too many people have realized that these are Druidic symbols. The old story that the sickle represents the farmers and the hammer represents the shipyard is not quite the true story here. What you have here is the sickle is the symbol of the Druids, the symbol of the moon, and the silver sickle. The hammer is a specific kind of hammer. That's called a gavel, that is used by Freemasons. And the star is, of course, the occult star. Remember, anytime you see the star, it is taking what it is on to a higher level, to an etheric or magical principle. Pirates, for instance, use the symbol of the skull and the bones. This is another secret fraternity that exists throughout the world. And it's in America, in the Yale University. This lodge is called Lodge 322. And 322 has been long misunderstood. Actually, what it relates to is March 22nd, the first day of the spring equinox.
That's good.
And here we have John Kennedy speaking about secret fraternities. He says, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the danger of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the danger which are cited to justify it. So on the very highest level of presidency and in this country, there is awareness that there are secret societies operating in the world. In fact, if that wasn't the case, why is it that the police have a group called the Criminal Conspiracies Division? The police actually have an investigative body called the Criminal Conspiracies Division, implying that there is such a thing as criminal conspiracy. Thomas Jefferson says, I really look with commiseration over the great body of my fellow citizens who, reading newspapers, live and die in the belief that they have known something of what has been passing in their times. So as I'm saying, we have to start gaining the symbolic literacy and begin to see through the veil of what's been going on. And Benjamin Disraeli, he was the first Hebrew Prime Minister of England, a man who spent his whole life trying to expose these groups. He said that the government of this country has not only to deal with governments, kings and ministers, but also with secret societies, elements which must be taken into account, you see, which at the last moment can bring our plans to nothing, which have agents everywhere, who incite assassinations and can, if necessary, lead a massacre. And that is exactly what they have been doing.
What year was that?
I guess that was, that's a good question, early 19th century?
19th century. It's probably
Oh,
worse
sorry,
today.
I'm sorry, early 20th century.
20th century.
Yeah, the turn of the century.
And now we have the internet with secret encryption codes.
Mm-hmm. Here we have a wonderful statement way back in the 15th century by Sir Thomas More, and he says, "Everywhere do I perceive a certain conspiracy of rich men seeking their own advantage under that name and pretext of the Commonwealth." So these secret societies are thousands of years old, and the symbolism that they have is thousands of years old. So now we know who's doing what. Let's find out what they're doing. And we want to look a little bit, at the beginning at least, of the symbolism that permeates the corporate world. And what I'd like to again reaffirm and make clear is that it has a lot to do with astrology. Astrology is the template behind a lot of the symbols that we see in daily life. I tell the children at the New Age Academy and other youth that I associate with in this subject to, instead of becoming cynical, I say to them, instead of becoming a cynic, be a critic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, rather than being cynical about your society, be a cynic. And the most important underlying common denominator is the night sky. Astrology and the night sky is where a lot of these symbols, these Sabian symbols, come from. For instance, we know about the constellations. We know that there's constellation of Leo and the constellation of Cancer, for instance. And as I showed earlier, that has to do with heraldry. But these symbols, that's where they come from. The images that come out of the ancient world of the 12 signs, and you see there is actually more than 12 signs of the zodiac. There's actually 72 signs altogether. If you
over the sphere.
Yeah, over the sphere, there's 72 major signs, and the advertising agents know all about the intricacy of these signs. Which is why when we see them, we don't necessarily at first think that they connect to planets. The Volvo symbol being the symbol of Mars, you see, which represents the masculine.
Mm-hmm.
But see, the word Volvo is Scandinavian for the woman's vulva. So we have the female and the male being put together. The ring of Saturn with a triple A, the ring of Saturn. We have Kron, K-R-O-N, which is a Bay Area channel. Comes from the word Chronos, which means time. And if you actually look at the symbolism they use on that channel and that program, you will see a lot of interesting zodiological symbols there. Arista, which is a record company, a massive conglomerate, is actually the ancient name of the star Spica in Virgo. Virgo. It has to relate to the sign of Virgo. The NATO symbol of the four directions, of the four corners. You see, so people need to look at these innocuous symbols and discover that they have an ancient origin, and therefore they have a power. They have a power over our minds, over our consciousness. 4-star goes back to the fact that astronomy and astrology would not even be possible without 4 what they call fixed stars. Okay, so there are 4 fixed stars that astronomers know about, and that's why we keep seeing this term being used, 4 points or forester. Even when you see a certain car called the Forester, what you're actually looking at there actually says 4-star.
This is just really fascinating.
Yeah. So we have a lot of symbolism to show, but I'd like to point out the fact that these symbols have a power over our consciousness, over our being, over our minds, and we can be controlled by them rather than being empowered. In ancient days, symbolism was to help us become empowered as opposed to inundated with stimuli. So if you look at the products, if you're just a lay person at this, and you look at the symbols that we have in our society, if you go to the local store, you will find that a lot of the symbols and the words and the names that are picked are not even English. Redken, what does that mean? Merck, Lexus, right? We use these terms, we say them, they're not even English words, and we assume then they don't mean anything.
And the courses that you teach, your website, I believe, is going to come up here very shortly. People can contact you, find out about the courses?
Absolutely. I teach on this extensively, and you can contact me if you like by phone or by my email, which is neater@jps.net. You can visit my website at taroscopes.com. But I do welcome comments and interest, and if there are anyone who has a fascination with this, as I say, this has been a work that many scholars in America have written about, and I think our time has come, because youth who consider it, completely chic now to dress around like a corporate logo need to be discovering what it is they're wearing and where the origins of these symbols are.
And for further information about this show or other shows on technology trends, you can contact us here at Post Office Box 487 in Mountain View, California, 94042. Post Office Box 487, Mountain View, California 94042. Well, to conclude this segment of the show, I'd like to say that the symbols seem to have a power that's in our consciousness, and it's the application of those symbols we have to watch out for.
Yeah.
The symbol by itself is neither positive nor
Absolutely.
negative.
I'm very glad you brought that out again. It has to do with the fact that communication by words is very recent in the phylogenetic advent of human race.
Okay.
But symbolic communication is very ancient. And we need to become literate again, because there's a lot of enrichment and empowerment in that,
Okay.
especially for the youth.
Very good. Thank you very much, Michael Tsarion, and thank you for being with us here on Technology Trends.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.